Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon, and welcome to I
Or
on the
maybe it could be
Economy.
good night.
Good night
Or it could be good morning.
or good morning. Good day. Good evening.
There you go.
Everything is working fine. Welcome to I on the Economy, the lunchtime edition. In fact, the lunchtime edition, why it be night?
Because it could be lunchtime in Antigua, it could be midnight in
I get you.
China, it could be mid morning in
Mhm.
Africa.
Mhm.
It could be, so
I agree. I agree.
Sounds like just the edition.
Just the edition. Welcome to I on the Economy, ladies and gentlemen, and we have a special guest today with us, Mr. Daryl Spencer. Daryl, how are you doing?
Pretty good, pretty good. Always a pleasure to meet like-minded individuals for conversation.
All right.
But I'm curious though, just about one little thing, because here in Iron Economy, we kind of assume that our listeners and viewers know who Daryl Spencer is.
Yes.
So Daryl, 2 minutes or less.
2 minutes.
Or if you need less than that, tell us about Daryl Spencer, the professional side. We'll mind the other parts later.
Oh, Daryl Spencer is an Antiguan, a public health professional who function in various parts of public health, whether it be from vector control to liquid waste management, food safety. Spent some time in solid waste management also. And I am one of those individuals who want to see Antigua be the best it can be. I think that's the best way to put it, Daryl Spencer.
So he was right. He's in a room with like-minded individuals.
All right. But you didn't say who you were.
Me? Oh yeah, that's me. I am Petra Williams. Too many things, too numerous to mention. But for today,
For today.
we'll see. I am the functioning economist on this panel, the most humble of the lot, because I'm in the room with the big boys. And my role here today in this series is really to just walk us through the economy and to assist Colin, because he's the boss, as we take a guide through various issues that affect Antigua and Barbuda and how we can A, highlight the issues, B, bring professionals who can assist us in making it clear so that our listeners and viewers can understand and appreciate. And most importantly, offer recommendations that we feel can assist in transforming Antigua and Barbuda.
Wow, I don't know how to come behind of that. My name is Colin John Jenkins, entrepreneur, and for the purposes of this discussion, I'm going to be an architect on the panel. How's that?
That works.
All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, Daryl Spencer reached out to me the other day to discuss something that he thinks needs to be addressed and is very passionate about. And that has to do with how we dispose of our wastewater, not only in residential areas, but commercials as well. So, Daryl, you wanted to basically highlight something that you think affects not only persons at home, but in terms of the general economy and infrastructure of Antigua and Barbuda.
And also public health.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which is,
Well, let's start with what a lot of people can observe while traversing Antigua. You're driving along and you see this well manicured property with a big white pipe coming to the street.
Mhm. Very tacky looking.
Very tacky looking. But not only that, this pipe is depositing waste material from the homes, from our toilets, from our showers, into drains that goes on to disrupt traffic, road flows. They undermine the road because the area becomes very soggy and the road was not built for that. This also the issue of the depositing of microbes into public spaces that could otherwise come into contact with our children, with individuals, and spread possibility of spread of disease.
So just so I know you said children, but remember we have a growing aging population and they also are vulnerable. So we'll put our vulnerable
Of vulnerable population.
Yes.
Yes. So that is the challenge. And we see it very, very clearly in St. John's when we walk the streets and sometimes you get odors. But we also have moss in common terms, algal growth, right?
Mhm.
Which suggests that there's very high nutrient coming out into the drains. And
That's how you say nastiness, high nutrient.
high nutrient, high organic content.
Okay.
Coming out into the drain. It's indicative of high nitrates and phosphates, which you can correlate with sewage,
Mhm.
right? So that is where now this goes into our seas. St. John's Harbor affects fishing. it affects the way mosquitoes breed, because now we have a lot of nutrient in water. And in 2014, let's go back to 2014, we had one of the worst droughts in Antigua history. I think Dale Destin says the worst since Columbus.
Wow.
Right? But then shortly thereafter, we had an outbreak of dengue. So where was this water coming from? And that led me to do a thesis, a study on the effect of that type of water on the growth of the Aedes aegypti mosquito. And we found that in harsh times, especially when there's a shortage of water, the Aedes aegypti will grow in your septic tanks. Right? Typically, they're not known for that. So we have
Just for clarity, so you're saying that during periods of drought, because normally we're told to ensure that we do not leave stagnant water and so on.
Cover
So in
drums.
terms, cover the drums and so on. So in times of drought, where there's no stagnant, where there's less likelihood for stagnant water, the mosquitoes
will fly into your open septic tanks and breed.
Okay, thank you.
Open.
Open septic tanks.
What if-
Septic tanks open. So this is why there's such an emphasis on, during the planning process where you submit your plans for approval, there's so much emphasis on your waste systems and how your septic tank is designed, and that vent that goes to the roof that must have mesh over it and so forth. It is for that purpose. We also
So you can have the septic tanks closed.
Yes, but then it
That's why
comes
you
to
look
the
so
vent.
surprised.
Yeah, because I know,
Yeah.
in order to get to them, like you just mentioned, the vents, that little pipe that we see going through the roof, needs to have a covering over it.
But we have a reality on the ground.
It is.
And that reality is a lot of homes have unfinished septic tanks.
Explain that for the listeners.
So your septic tank is constructed. You may have a piece of plywood over the top, right? Or you may have a fully encased septic tank, but there's a pipe that leads from it that goes nowhere. Or it should have gone to your soakaway, but it's not properly
It's not probably connected.
connected to the soakaway.
We don't think of that as being improperly connected, though.
What it does though is when we have fogging exercise during vector control response, the mosquitoes fly into your septic tank and hide.
So, which is why oftentimes we think, because there have been complaints that we've been having these fogging and we're
Mosquito.
still more mosquitoes. So it's really us as the public who are the architect of our demise, because we have these unfinished septic tanks.
Unfinished septic tanks and other whole, yes. That's what it is. The other, there is also, and we know a lot of people don't have the capital to go and complete a full construction and their wastewater systems. So they may dig a soakaway. You have the pipes unconnected, but then when the water starts to flow, it forms a seal, especially if you have kitchen, bathroom, and toilet. Because when we bathe, the grease, we wash that away.
Yeah.
Also from our kitchen, the grease, we wash that away. So all that greasy residue forms a film on your soakaway.
Yeah.
And then in the yard, it's constantly soggy, but the soakaway does not function below. Right? So we have those issues happening there too. So it's maintaining public health is about doing simple things that has major effects. The things that we generally overlook a lot of times focus to our demise.
But then how this affects the roads, the infrastructure, your neighbor next door? Like, why are you really concerned about where this is going based on your observation?
Let's start with the roads. That pipe running to the street, a lot of times they know public drains for the removal of those waters.
Should it run to the street in the first place?
No.
We'll come back to should it run to the street. Let's deal with what happens because it's running to the
Okay.
street.
So a lot of times they know drains or broken drains. Right? You're sending a large quantity of water to a sensitive area. Remember, when the engineers designed the road, they designed it for carrying capacity of a certain hydraulic load.
Yeah.
And that constant flow of water keeps the area saturated. As vehicles move over it, you have that movement and you have that sinking and the potholes that we so like to.
Again, we are the architects of our
We are.
own demise.
Yeah.
Okay.
for the listening public, when you say hydraulic loads, you're talking about rainwater or what naturally comes onto the road?
No, the calculation usually includes rainwater.
Okay.
So, for instance, as when architects and technicians design a house plan, they design. We know how much water we're going to get in a year, at least an average. We can tell you how much water a house will release based on occupancy or the number of bedrooms. There's a calculation for that. But when the engineer designs a road, he's not designing for that wastewater to come to the road.
Yeah.
At least when it rains, it spreads over a large area. But when you have wastewater running from a property, you have an area of concentration of water just in one area. So you have that area that becomes saturated, and then you can have movement. And whenever you have heavy traffic and you get an indentation, it allows for more water to be captured. Yeah?
And stay there
And stay right there.
and do more damage.
And do more damage.
Ouch.
Right? But I'm not an engineer by any means. Right?
Oh, we're making notes for that. We're making notes.
My focus is the public health side and how that affects you negatively. Because what I want the public to understand is that you pay
Pay how?
directly and indirectly for those issues. You're gonna pay if, for instance, mosquito breeds and you get dengue fever.
Yes.
You're gonna pay if, for instance, you get some form of infection from
And this could be internal
internal.
as well as it could be rashes.
Or this could be topical also.
Right. Which many of us get and we are not sure where it's coming from.
Coming from. We're gonna pay, especially when you have a lot of kitchen waste running out onto the surface, with the high instances of flies, rats, because you're feeding them.
Roaches.
That morsel of food that comes out,
yeah.
usually in
The bits and so on.
two little macaroni.
Yeah.
On the side. That morsel of food that comes out feeds rats, and that area now has a lot of nutrients that flies can lay eggs in and get maggots. We can maggot.
So just when you say we pay, because there's something I just wanted to kind of bear with me a second. Because oftentimes you go to restaurants to eat. You know, we have our neighborhood backyard restaurants and so on, and you're sitting there, or even some of our more standard restaurants that have outdoor patios and so on, and you're sitting there and these flies, and you're wondering where the flies are coming from. And we're thinking it's all other things. It could very well be because we have the wastewater.
There's no such thing as fly season.
You're kidding?
There's no such thing as fly season. There's a time when you're more likely to get flies because the ground is, there's a lot of nutrients and water comes and stays long enough for them to lay an egg. But for instance, if it is that you have animals and animals are releasing their fecal matters and stuff and rain come, you're gonna get maggots and you're gonna get fly breeding. If it is that you've been dumping food underground and you, for instance, those vendors who like to throw their oil from the
Just on the side.
just on the side,
In the drain, in the dirt.
they create an area of saturation, and once it rains, it's high nutrient, it's wet, flies lay eggs, and then you get a manifestation of flies, an infestation of flies. Roaches like that also, right? Roaches like damp, cool environment. So if they're under a tree and you keep it consistently wet with food matter and stuff, you're gonna get roaches. That is why whenever you have a leak in your sink and it becomes muggy and whatever, you tend to have that muggy odor and roaches. So one of the in your home. But here's the best way to control roaches in your home. You remember parched peanut with sand?
Yes.
You put it under your sink and it removes all of that humidity.
Naturally.
Naturally.
The sand, the patch.
The hot sand.
The hot sand.
Yes. It removes that moisture and then it makes it uncomfortable for roaches. I use that because I know a lot of people can identify having that kind of wetness under their sink. Everybody has had it once or twice. It is the same thing in the natural environment. When in the natural environment, once you have that muggy, wetness, you're going to attract vectors.
I see. So basically, just to recap where we're at now, we're having this conversation and our economy and the economy, and we're here with Colin. and Daryl.
Mm.
And what he just walked us through in terms of the whole challenges that we're facing with wastewater management in Antigua and Barbuda is that principally we are the architects of our own challenges as it relates to poor wastewater management. And so we've looked at one where it goes out onto the road
Mhm.
because we have incomplete drains and incomplete septic tanks.
Right.
And we have those pipes that run out to the water, 1 and 2. And then you also looked at where, because of poor disposal of waste, we spoke about, for example, vendors just pouring the oil on the side and others and similar issues that
At
we are at home.
Yeah, the quality.
And not only at home, but sometimes vendors do it outside on their little side vending
Mhm.
places, and some restaurants also pour techniques in terms of how they manage their waste.
Mhm.
That we are in fact contributing to one deteriorating our public health systems
Mhm.
and directly our personal health.
Yes.
Okay.
So how does washing machine water fit into this? It can't be that it's the same sort of situation, is it?
It's
Washing
going through the
machine-
same. It's not going through the same.
It has detergent in there that good. You know, roaches and so on can't live in that.
No, washing machine.
Okay.
In the oh my, this is gonna make me sound old. But in the 90s when I came into the system.
You can say from an empirical reference, so you don't sound old. Yo.
Empirically.
Yo. No, go ahead.
When they had a lot of the detergents at the time had high phosphates and stuff in them, and they were difficult to break down. That has improved over time, right? But still, what do we wash? And why do we wash? It's to
Wash
remove
with the oil.
impurities and the oils and whatever else we've come into contact with. You're sending it out. So the wash water, though, does something that not even sewage does. It takes a lot more for purification or for cleaning. So you get higher BOD, you need to require higher BODs, higher CODs. So that's biological oxidant and chemical oxidant one. So when that gets into your stream, it can lead to things like what we see with the dying of fishes because the oxygen level is completely depleted. We get a lot of that from time to time when we have heavy rains and
Yeah, when you get the fish kill.
you get a fish kill.
And we panic because we think that it's the commercial enterprises that are primarily damaging those areas.
No.
It's really us.
No. It's the signs of the ends of the time.
That too.
I was hoping we would have avoided that one.
Yeah. But essentially, what you're saying is even that should be controlled.
It should be controlled.
So we have both the waste in terms of what we use from the bathrooms and the kitchens, and even from the laundry.
So all of the cleaning that we do, because what we've cleansed needs to go somewhere, and we're disposing of it improperly, we're creating issues.
We created
So how do we have a solution?
There we go now. Right. So let's
to
be
this?
solution driven.
the solution.
Our solutions.
There are quite a few.
Okay.
The first one is getting the information out there. I think the public who desires service needs to know what it is that they should get. So, for instance, if I'm building a house and I hire Colin to draw my plan, Colin should be able to give me some guidance as to what happens to my wastewater so that I do not affect the neighbor or do not dump it on the road and those kind of things.
I'm going to interrupt you right there because what has been your experience? I'm going to ask Colin too. What has been your experience with those who should guide us in the design process actually guiding us? And I'm asking it from this context. I want a house. I have $200,000. That makes sense? I need to carry it up a little.
You need to start character little.
Okay, I have $300,000.
Yes, let's start there.
Okay, good. So I have $300,000.
It's still short though, but go ahead.
I didn't say it. He did.
I have $400,000.
Yes.
Wicked. And I want a house.
Yeah.
And I want a house. I'm not into all them
Fancy
things that I can tell me about and so on. At what point does the guidance begin, or should the guidance begin to let me know that for this $400,000, you need to, from your design to construction, these are the key things that need to be considered?
Well, first things first, whatever land size you have, you had it before you design your house. So if you only had
That happened with me.
if you only have 5,000 square feet, you can get a 7,000 square feet house,
Only?
but
I
you
mean, I
can,
can't like a
but you can go up. So what we've been seeing is that designers and homeowners, or prospective homeowners, tend to want to use up as much of the land as possible for housing.
But that makes sense.
But there's the law that says you should only use 33%.
What law?
There is guidelines to how much you should use on the property.
Where are these guidelines?
They're within our national fiscal planning act.
So who do you tell this to? I want my house. I want to use on my land.
The persons doing the designs are supposed to, as Mr. Spencer said, guide the process.
So, Mr. Spencer, give me 2 seconds. Well, it's more like 5. Colin. Yeah, guide people.
Yes, we do. As the best.
Yeah, actually really guide people. Or you're saying this because we're here.
No.
Or because it's you.
No.
Because nothing
Architects, designers, engineer, we do guide. Sometimes, some may not properly, and other times, the homeowners may take it upon themselves and be the demise of their own selves.
And I have to ask this question because if Mr. Spencer is saying that we have these problems across the length and breadth of
We do.
Antigua,
We do.
and we see them for ourselves, and now you've spoken about them, I'm seeing more.
Mhm.
Colin, what go on? Why I do?
Well, let me tell you, there's a part to this, and of course.
Because me blame my politician.
No. Listen, there is the designers who interact with the clients. Then there is a level of protection and guidance that's provided by the Development Control Authority, the
Okay,
Central Board of
that
Health,
didn't make
the Environment Division.
Mhm.
And then what I think is missing, and Spencer can probably, jump in here, is the monitoring and control that comes after the fact that what you put on paper is the right thing, because people do deviate.
Hold on. So, Mr. Spencer, coming back to you now, we're going to pick it from where you are. So, you're saying that when I have this $400,000 at the point of design, in theory, the right thing is designed.
Mm.
So, if I were to have a chat with DCA, if we were to have a chat with DCA and ask DCA for the plans that they have, a random sampling,
Mhm.
all of the plans, or 99%, would be designed in accordance with the laws and regulations such as they exist today.
For the most part, a lot of them would be.
Mm.
And if there are deviations, the DCA and Central Board of Health allows for remedial action.
Yes.
So you may submit a plan with a lot of things wrong with it, but generally they should not go through unless remediation is done.
Remediation is done when? While I'm building?
No, before the passage.
Okay, go ahead.
But the other thing too is I think a lot of homeowners miss out on is the soil test. Testing the soil on your plot to know what it can manage.
Test the soil when? Before I buy the land?
No. After you bought the land, when you're considering building, as a matter of fact, you should have what they call a percolation test
Mhm.
that says how well the land drains water, so that you can have that discussion with the designer, architect, so they can design an appropriate system. So for instance, some land types require a lot more space for your subsurface disposal system.
In other words,
The soil is bad.
hold on. In other words, I have to build a house with less square feet.
You may have to go up rather than out.
And so go up means, what does go up means for my $400,000?
It means that
Not dead.
it means that whereas you may have a sprawling first floor or ground floor unit, it now means that you may need to go 2 floors so that the land can adequately drain the water that you're producing on there.
Hold on. We're gonna have to do a part 2 with you.
I'm telling you. I was just thinking.
Because you're telling me that the government, you know what? Let me let the government off the hook today. So, private person Tommy has 14 acres of land for sale,
Right.
and they cut it up. And I go and look, and it's a nice looking place. I can look and see the nice expanse and the sunset and so on and so
Two
on.
mango trees.
And I buy my land.
Mhm.
And then you can tell me after I'm done by the land, then it's possible that I can't get a house of my dreams. Because no, when I go to buy the land, I don't visualize the house of my dreams that I Colin Jenkins to discount me, design for me. Colin, discount. Colin?
The person you're trying to reach.
discount.
It's not available.
So I see this. I know you're telling me that in order to practice proper waste management and proper public health in my interest first, and then in the public's interest secondly, that I would have to do soil tests after I finish by the land, and then take the results of that soil test into consideration in the design.
The design of
The person who you hire with.
But I want to speak to your dreams. I don't think you've had the same dreams you did 5 years ago. You're having them now. Dreams change. And with information, you get it tweaked a little bit. So it's just like on a construction site, and I'm sure Colin can speak to this. Sometimes you have visions of a single story house, but once you get and you really look at the layout, and after the excavation is done, you realize you have a basement.
Part 2.
Part 2.
Have $400,000. So we go back to waste management. So you're saying, so one of the options is we do the testing and then we design in the best interest of proper waste management solution. Okay. So let's say for argument.
Your health and safety.
My health and safety, yes. So let's say for argument's sake, we're at where we are today, where many homes have already been constructed. And they have the lovely pipe running out, or they have the incomplete septic tank, sorry. And then we have the soakaway system that connected to the septic tank. And we have all of these challenges, and we are helping to undermine our roads and so on.
Yes.
What happens in that instance? What are our options?
There's so many.
Let
me say, for one, as a matter of fact, we have an issue now that may go to the courts with that one. Right? Same wastewater issue, water seeping onto your neighbor's property. And when that happens and damage is caused, you can be held liable.
Wow.
Hold on. You know what? Keep going.
Right?
That's okay.
We need to understand that the soakaway system is not the end of it all. It's not the be all.
But that's what we know. That's
there
the
are
all we
many other
know.
types of systems that you can use. But then the amount of land you have plays into it. And your space around you, your surrounding spaces also play into what you can have. For instance, we know of the evapotranspiration mound. That's if you're on rock and the water cannot soak, we use the sun to evaporate the water from the land. We can also use trees and stuff to absorb water, and then right. We have something called a wet well system that functions like the natural. So in the natural state, water goes through a series of filtration and stuff before we.
Yeah, the thing they taught us at school.
And we can mimic that in a very small space. There's a calculation as to what size of system you can use to effect up to 90-95% removal.
Mr. Spencer.
Of microbes and stuff like that.
Mr.
Man is in his element.
Yes.
I am paying my mortgage.
Mhm.
I am feeding my children.
Mhm.
I am putting gas in my car.
Right.
What you just described there sounds very expensive.
But here's the thing. I know you do not want to be paying your mortgage, putting gas in your car, have your car note, and once or twice for dinner, and still have to worry about your neighbor complaining about your water and tell you she could sue you.
So how do we
Is
resolve
it cost effective?
The
The one that you just, yes.
Yeah, they are cost effective because generally soakaways will give you just about 15-20 years. Then you'll have to find space for it. Even with
Hold on. People know that they're supposed to replace their soakways every 15 years?
So you don't always, but in some cases you do. And when that happens, what I find quite amusing in a lot of construction is they try to put the soakaway as far away from the house, the septic tank and soakaway, as far away from the house as possible. So when anything goes wrong, they don't have the space. So you have to build an entire new system. Why not utilize a lot more of your land space and give yourself options?
But I wanted to go back to something that Petra asked. If you're in an existing situation now, what are like the top 2-3 things that persons can actually do as we wrap this conversation?
It depends on the soil type. It depends on your space. We've gone as far as to recommend and ensure that people put a holding tank and remove it.
Yeah.
That is very expensive.
Okay, so can we dig a hole with some stones and persons wonder what in there before it saturates and
That's all we do now?
But I'm talking about the pipes that go directly to the road. Like, how can we?
In a lot of these cases, there's space on the land. It's just that I've seen
There's space on the land that going to cost me money.
That is true, but you can also, let's put it.
And I'm not being, one second, Mr. Spencer, and I just want our audience to understand, because we're trying to also be practical in that a large part of the challenge we have is that people are really not willing to do these things.
Some of them
So
are
we-
rental property.
And yes, so we want
No, if income is being gathered from it, they have to pay for it. Yeah.
so we want people to understand that we have to be really begin to take these things very seriously.
Okay. So, in March of 2019, Act number 3, 2019, we developed what we call a Litter Act, Litter Prevention and Control Act. It says that when you deposit and leave, whether it is liquid, solids, or gases, you would have littered in a public space. You would have littered, which means that for those people who are running their effluent, their waste to the road, if we implement the Litter Act in its entirety,
Persons will be fined.
you will be fined. If and when.
Okay, so we'll come back to that. That's two. But I have one last thing as we look to wrap. I know. What about recycling? Is that an option?
It is.
Anyway.
It is. It is. I'm not going to name countries, but I'll say across the world, the tilapia that we eat, the shrimp,
Shrimp too? I don't eat tilapia, but do we have to stop eating shrimp too?
are grown in recycled water.
What do you call recycled water? What do you mean by that?
Let's partially treated sewage. As a matter of fact, they found that you get rapid growth when you grow tilapia and shrimp in high organic water or water with high organics.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to have to come back for part 2, right? Because at this point in time, Mr. Spencer has gone on to another part of this discussion that needs another half an hour. Is it?
But hold on. But yeah, we're gonna wrap. So, Mr. Spencer, my $400,000 home.
Should I let that go?
No. How are there simple systems that I can use for recycling that I don't have to go tilapia and shrimp?
Yes. You can reuse that water for washing your pavements and for flushing toilets.
So where do I keep it?
You build an additional holding tank, separate and apart. You run it through a filtration system, you chlorinate it, and then you reuse it to flush toilets and wash pavements.
And I think this is the perfect time to ask for persons out there who are listening and want to have a better system. Can they reach out to you and your department and your folks?
Sure.
Consultation, how can they get in touch with you?
So Daryl Spencer, Central Board of, or anyone of the public health inspectors. It's 462-2936, the Office of the Chief Public Health Inspector.
Say that slowly.
And I was going to repeat it. It's 462-2936. Or Daryl Spencer, daryl.spencer@ab.gov.ag.
And when you all contact him, don't tell him we sent you.
No.
We're not taking responsibility for this one.
Yeah, so there's a lot to be done, and the input of the general public is critical for us arresting this.
So, ladies and gentlemen, we just had I would say introductory conversation about how we treat with our waste management. Mr. Spencer, that's a good way to put it.
Liquid waste management.
Liquid waste.
Solid waste,
yes.
yeah.
The solid is another story. Our liquid waste
We'll
management.
bring you back, man.
And I think perhaps if we can probably look at the takeaways just as we wrap up, what's the most important thing you'd like, Mr. Spencer, for folks to remember from this conversation?
All wastewater must be managed on your property.
Thank you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. So this is about managing your wastewater, because what we fail to recognize and appreciate is that improper management of our wastewater impacts our infrastructure via our roads and our curbs and drains.
And our public health.
And it impacts our public health and our wealth, because it impacts our internal systems. Our youth and elderly are more vulnerable, and it also impacts our external, our skin and so on, and it impacts us in the pockets. Because when the government want more money to fix the roads, you don't hear what's coming. right?
Mhm.
And when we have challenges in our homes, it also costs us resources. So this has been Colin Jenkins
Yes.
and
Petra Williams.
on
I am.
Education of and Economy. Stay locked. We will be bringing you more.